Welcome into another episode of Locked On Phillies. And what a wild weekend it was in the National League Championship Series. The range of emotion for Phillies fans was insane this weekend. And yet, the Phillies come back to Citizens Bank Park, finding themselves one win away from a repeat as National League champions and a berth in the World Series. Can they get it done tonight with Aaron Nola on the mound? We'll break it all down on today's episode of Locked On Phillies.
You are Locked On Phillies, your daily Philadelphia Phillies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, this is Locked On Phillies. I'm Connor Thomas, your host. Locked On Phillies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate you checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, doing all that good stuff that helps us grow the channel. It helps you get notifications when new episodes are posted. It costs you no money. It takes 2 seconds. It's super easy to do. So please, if you haven't yet, subscribe to Locked On Phillies on YouTube, or if you're listening in podcast form, like, rate, review, all that great stuff. I really do appreciate it. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. If you're trying to knock down a ticket to one of these games in Philadelphia, check out Game Time because it's nearly impossible to get into that stadium. Game Time's the best way to go about doing it. Yes. Whew. All right. Everyone take a deep breath. It was a heck of a weekend. The Philadelphia Phillies are now one win away from the World Series. They went out to Arizona and they lost the first 2 games. And the Diamondbacks evened the series at 2-2. Friday night's game was miserable. The Phillies looked like they had it. They were up like 5-2 or 5-3 at one point. The bullpen collapses. Craig Kimbrel doesn't show up in a big spot. Orion Kirkering isn't good in that game. And Alec Thomas hits a home run. Then you give up the lead and you have no way to come back. That was disheartening. I was as down on the Philadelphia Phillies after game 4 of this series as I've been after any game all year. And that's natural, right? It's the closest they've come to, I guess, facing elimination. I mean, I was down on them after the loss to the Braves in the in the NLDS too, but this one with much more on the line and a team that's not as good, it bothered me more. I hated that loss on Friday night. But you know what you have to do? You have to dust yourself off and pick yourself up and get ready to play game 5 the next night. And Saturday was much better. We're going to talk about Saturday in a second, but I want to address some things from Friday because don't do episodes over the weekend. So I haven't had a chance to talk about what went wrong Friday. And Friday, I thought that Rob Thompson had a poorly managed game. I thought he had a poor strategy when it came to how to compete with the Arizona Diamondbacks. So if you remember Friday, Christopher Sanchez got the start. And the Diamondbacks decided to go with a bullpen game. They started Joe Mantiply, who only threw an inning. I thought the plan for the Philadelphia Phillies was to try and use Christopher Sanchez as a clear starter. But he hadn't pitched since September 30th. And the day of that game was October 20th. So that's a tough one. It's hard to just go out there and throw. He's clearly not as stretched out as he was when he was throwing in the regular season. But let's think about this, right? You have 2 guys on your NLCS roster, Michael Lorenzen, Taijuan Walker, have the ability to be starters. I'm not saying they should have started over Sanchez, but what else are they there for? You're not going to throw them in high-leverage late bullpen innings. You might throw them if there's a blowout, but what are they, just space eaters on the roster? You should not have space eaters on the roster, especially not pitchers. Maybe you could have a position player who's just there for a weird specific situation, but what I would have done is I would have had Christopher Sanchez go, 2 or 3, as many as he could, and then have Taijuan Walker or Michael Lorenzen there to piggyback. And you try and get a long relief 2 or 3 innings out of them. And at that point, you take what was a bullpen game for Arizona and you make it into a piggyback game for you, which is a little bit less taxing on your bullpen. Instead, Rob Thompson seemed content to equal the bullpen game. And it ended up being a situation where your bullpen cost you late because you had to use so many high-leverage guys. I mean, Jeff Hoffman threw in the 3rd inning of that game. Wouldn't it have been nice to have him in the 8th when Kimbrel threw and ended up blowing the game? That would have been huge. The other thing is, and I know he was tight on bullpen pieces, but throwing Kimbrel in the 8th is a big mistake by Rob Thompson on Friday night. The guy absolutely can't throw in the 8th inning. Now, anyone who's saying, like, Kimbrel's trash, he can't throw, I don't trust him, I don't ever want to see him on the mound again, you're being short-sighted. The guy is an all-star this year. He's a Hall of Fame closer. He's been really darn good for you for the majority of this year. He hasn't been good in the last 2 appearances, and the last 2 appearances haven't been ideal spots. One was a tie game that he got walked off on, and the other one was a spot that we know he's not good in. I don't think his manager and Rob Thompson did a great job of putting him in the best spot to succeed. I also don't think he's been good. Like, I'm not trying to tell you, oh, he's been great, it's not Craig's fault. No, I mean, he needs to be much better. But I don't think he's now all of a sudden not usable. You're going to see Craig Kimbrel again. We have to accept that. You just got to trust the manager to put him in a spot that's better than the ones he's put him in the past couple times out. But the offense had woken up a little bit on Friday. Hit a couple balls out of the yard and everything. Like, that was better. So that gave you a little bit of encouragement. Even though you lost the game, it was like, okay, well, the bullpen blew it, but the offense woke up after only scoring 1 run in game 3. So it's like, what do we have here? It almost felt like the Phillies they knew they had time, and they were feeling out their opponent for, it's like, man, the offense didn't work. Okay, we're going to focus on the offense. The bullpen, okay, but now we know enough of how to win out there in Arizona, put it all together, have a great game in game 5. And really, as dire as the series felt following the loss on Friday night, you look at it and you say, okay, the series is tied at 2-2, but the Phillies still have the home field advantage. They still have the better team. They're still favored in the betting odds. They still have the better pitching rotation. They still have the better bullpen on paper. They still have the better offense. They have everything you could want except momentum. And all you had to do is you have to go out there and play game 5, and you had to take momentum back by winning game 5 to put yourself in position. Now, I'll tell you this, and this might come back to bite me at some point later on. Hopefully, we'll be talking about this through into the World Series too, because that means the Phillies would have won one of these final 2 games at Citizens Bank Park and would be heading to the World Series. But I also had this thought, like, even if you lose all 3 of those games in Arizona, which they didn't. We know they won game 5. We're going to recap what happened in that one Saturday night coming up. Even if you lost all 3 of those games in Arizona, there is a chance that this Phillies team might just be unbeatable at home. Like, the Citizens Bank Park, the 27 Yankees aren't coming in here and beating you. Like, it doesn't matter if you lose games on the road if you're the home team. Now, with that in mind, the Phillies so far this year, 6-0 at home. 2-0 against the Marlins, 2-0 against the Braves, 2-0 against the Diamondbacks so far. You got a big game tonight against the Diamondbacks, game 6 of the NLCS, with a chance for the Phillies to go to the World Series. That game, by the way, a little programming note for that game, 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It was a little murky as to whether or not that game was going to be played. If there was no ALCS Game 7, which is also tonight, the game would have been pushed back to like 7:30 or 8 or something. No, the ALCS is going 7. The Astros and Rangers are tied at 3 games apiece after the Rangers took last night's game 6. So the Phillies will be the early game. They will be 5:07 p.m. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to pull that up there. But yes, a bit of an early game, which gives us more time to party all night when the Phillies go out and win. And I say when, because coming up, I'm going to talk to you about what they did in game 5 that makes me feel great about what they have on tab for game 6. We'll discuss that as we continue today's episode of Locked On Phillies. First, though, I want to tell you about my friends over at Game Time, okay? You should not have to worry when you're buying tickets to your next big event. And this is bigger than a big event. This is huge. I mean, the Phils are playing in the NLCS tonight with a chance to go to the World Series. You might say, that's way too last minute, Connor. How am I ever going to get tickets? Well, Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And they've got killer last minute deals. All in prices. You can see the views from your seat, and they've got a best price guarantee. They promise you 110% of your money back if you find tickets in the same row and section for less. So you feel very comfortable and confident you're getting the best deal possible with Game Time. They take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Tonight, the Phils could have the seminal moment of their season. Going to the World Series for back-to-back years. I mean, how amazing is that? Last year they clinched at home. Of course, we know Bedlam at the bank. Could you imagine if you're sitting around considering, maybe I'll go to Phillies Padres tonight. The Phillies have a chance to go to the World Series. And instead you choose not to. And next thing you know, you're watching Bryce Harper hit the greatest home run in Phillies history, and you're sitting at home on the couch. Like, don't miss that tonight. Use Game Time to get in the building. And they're the best way to do it. They've got great deals, last-minute tickets. You can do it right up to the time of the game. Go ahead and check out Game Time, and guess what? I'll help you out because I don't want you to miss that moment either. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app. Create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB. We'll get you $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right. Now, Game 4 sucked. And then Game 5 rolls around, and there was a lot of nervous people as far as what the Philadelphia Phillies were going to have to do to bounce back in that series. It's tied 2-2. You're nervous. For the first time, it feels like the Diamondbacks, like when they walked it off in Game 3, the feeling was, oh, that's cute. They got one. We're going to bury you now. When they beat you in Game 2 and came back to do it, it was like, this team has a little bit of life, and they're starting to look a little bit scary. And are they seriously going to be like the team of destiny this year, like the Phillies were last year? And then Game 5 rolls around, and you can completely stomp all that out by winning Game 5 and putting yourself in a situation where you just have to win one of 2 games at Citizens Bank Park, the toughest place in baseball to play. So, like a huge game Saturday night, like gigantic. It cannot be overstated how big that game was on Saturday night. And the Phillies turned to Zack Wheeler to face off against Zach Gallen. And I talked about it on 97.5 The Fanatic on the radio on Saturday. Like, here's something we have to cling on to, right? First of all, you're the better team. So, advantage Phillies in that aspect. The better team doesn't always win, but you are the better team. Second of all, Zack Wheeler, by like all the important metrics, is the greatest postseason pitcher of all time. So if he goes out there and he replicates what he did in Game 1 and what he did against the Braves and what he did in the wild card series in Game 1 against Miami, I mean, Arizona has no chance. And guess what, folks? Zack Wheeler did. He went out there and dominated. Like, Zack Wheeler is absolutely insane, okay? I don't know. 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 earned, 1 walk, 8 Ks. The 1 run came on an Alec Thomas home run. Who cares? Whatever. The Phillies were already up big at that point. I mean, the Phillies were up 4-0, and you give up that home run to Alec Thomas, and then you get it right back with a JT Realmuto homer in the 8th, top of the 8th inning. Like, Zack Wheeler, though, it cannot be. He's going to be the NLCS MVP when the Phillies win, because I do believe they're winning this series. Zack Wheeler fully deserves it. He is the stopper. He is the starter. He is the everything, the alpha and omega for this Philadelphia Phillies rotation. Now, tonight you're going to need Aaron Nola to be great, and we're going to talk about that coming up as we wrap up. But just looking at how the Phillies got this done in Game 5, Zack Wheeler dominated them early, and the Phillies got a chance to jump on them early. So not only was Zack Wheeler good, but the Phillies played their style of game perfectly. When I say their style of game, I'm talking about being aggressive on the base pass. There are going to be some times where it looks ugly. You get thrown out stealing in spots you shouldn't. You get thrown out, I don't know. For example, this is just off the top of my head. I'm just making this up. Like a double play to end an NLDS game down in Atlanta on a ball that was caught when somebody rounded second base and didn't get back to first. Like, sometimes you're going to be overly aggressive, and it's going to kill you. Sometimes, though, it pays off hugely in spots that count. And the Philadelphia Phillies have decided all year long they're going to be an aggressive team. So what do? In the first inning, Bryson Stott has an RBI single to make it 1-0. He comes up huge with 2 outs. And then with runners on first and third, Stott on first, Harper on third, Stott tries to steal second, stops halfway, runs that old play we've all played in Little League, in high school ball, college ball. Like, you've seen this play run a billion times if you played baseball or follow the sport. The runner from first runs down, tries to get in a rundown, and when the throw goes to the second base bag, Bryce Harper breaks from third base and tries to beat the throw back home. It's hard. So instead of throwing a guy out at second, you're now trying to connect 2 throws while a guy just has to run. 90 feet. And it just so happened that the throw back in to the catcher was low, and it hopped a little bit, got him a little bit short, and he had to lean up the line. And Bryce Harper's coming down full speed, smokes him, hits him in the head. Like, not intentional by any means. It was just a bad throw that took him up the line. Like, there was no avoidance Bryce Harper could have done. I saw a couple of people, dumb people on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, saying, oh, that was a dirty play. You're an idiot. No, it wasn't. And Harper immediately checked on Moreno and tried to see if he was okay. Just nothing you could do there. It was just a tough play. But he scores. It makes 2-0 on throwing error by Ketel Marte. And you're like, okay, first inning, you're up 2-0. You have Wheels on the mound. That's before Wheels even steps on the mound. It's like, wow, all right. Deep breath, everybody. We're good. Then you kind of slow down a little bit. In the next couple innings, nothing really happened. It took till the sixth for the Phillies to score again. Zach Allen settled in after that one. But it was a Schwarber home run, 461 feet. And then Bryce Harper, a batter later, like Trey Turner batted. And then Bryce Harper hits a home run to right center, 444 feet. I mean, two absolute nukes. Like, are you kidding me? 461 and 444 in the matter of 3 at-bats? That's insane. And that's why Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper are unbelievable. Kyle Schwarber now the best left-handed power hitter in the history of Major League Baseball postseason. I believe he also tied the record for most home runs in an NLCS ever, or a championship series like ever. Like, he's just – there's so many home run records that Kyle Schwarber is going to break if the Phillies keep making the playoffs and he keeps performing like he's performing. But once Harper hits that homer, it's 4-0, and Wheeler's been dominant. You're like, oh, okay, this one feels over. Alek Thomas hits the home run in the 7th. You're like, all right, well, could use an extender here. And then in the top of the 8th, JT Realmuto hits the first non-solo home run for the Phillies since the Reagan administration. JT Realmuto, a 2-run home run to left that scrapes over the wall in that weird short corner out in Arizona. The Phils win 6-1. The way they got it done, aggressive base running early, taking advantage of opportunities. A shutdown starting pitcher. Zack Wheeler was as good as anybody's been at any point this postseason, and he's been nasty all the way through. So I love Zack Wheeler. I love what he's been doing. We're so lucky to have him. The Mets are idiots for not re-signing him. Then you also have to put together some offense as far as consistent at-bats and the penchant of this team. Like, the calling card of the Philadelphia Phillies, home runs. Hit the ball out of the yard. Ball go boom, right? Ring the bell. That's what this team does. Well, you hit 3 in big spots, all of the big spots, on Saturday night in Game 5. So, yeah, they got the job done. That's the blueprint, right? Those home runs become much easier to come by when you come back to Citizens Bank Park, too. So that's all good to go. Like, great news for the Philadelphia Phillies to win that game in the way they did. Now it's time, as we talked about the bad in Game 4, the good in Game 5, the yet to be determined in Game 6. You're playing for a chance to go to the World Series tonight. Aaron Nola is on the mound. How does he rise to the occasion? And first pitch is at 5:07 p.m. You can listen to every pitch of the Phillies hometown radio broadcast of that game on the SiriusXM app. Just go to the SXM app and search Phillies. You'll be able to hear that there again, 5:07 p.m. confirmed game time, because there's a Game 7 in the ALCS. So coming up, we're going to talk about Game 6 and how the Phillies can get to a point where they're once again heading to the World Series. We'll discuss as we wrap up Locked On Phillies. All right, let's talk FanDuel Sportsbook. October baseball, it's here. It's awesome. And you can make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. So if you bet on Arizona in Game 5, well, guess what? Even if you got that $5 bet wrong, you still get $200 in bonus bets. If you bet on Philly in Game 5 and you got it right, $200 in bonus bets. Yes, it's win or lose. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account. And then you can get in on the action from the first pitch until the final out. You can bet on everything: strikeouts, home runs, who's going to win the game. And if you don't want to wait the whole game to get a W, you can predict what will happen in the next at bat with quick bets. You ever have one of those moments where a guy's coming up, you're like, man, I can just feel the energy. This is a spot where Harper's going to go yard. Schwarber's going to go yard. Like Castellanos is due. Oh, I think Trey Turner's going to get a hit here. Like, you feel the flow of the game. You can take advantage of that with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right. Game 6, 5:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Will this be the one? Will this be the game that the Phillies win to send the team to the World Series once again? First, I want to talk about momentum. This is not Philly-centric, but this is city-centric. This is about the city of Philadelphia. The Phillies win game 5. I've lost track of the games. I can't do 7-game series. I'm not that good of a math guy. The Phillies win game 5. And it's like, awesome. We're back 3-2. You've got one game to win to make it to the World Series. Great. Saturday was awesome. And then Sunday, the Philadelphia Eagles play at the Link in the Kelly Green game against the Dolphins. And it's like, all right, it's a regular season football game with big implications sandwiched in between two hugely important playoff games. And the Eagles go out and dominate the Dolphins. And they win 31-17. And you're like, this is Locked On Phillies, not Locked On Eagles. I know, but the point is the momentum you build from a big win and then a big home win and then having game 6 at home, that stadium is going to be as loud as you've ever heard it. Citizens Bank Park today at 5:07 p.m. is going to be unreal. It's an unreal environment anyway. It's going to be ratcheted up to another level tonight, especially if you see the Phillies get out early. And with Aaron Nola on the mound, he's got a chance to be a great hero for this team. Now, Zack Wheeler is going to be the hero of this series when everything's all said and done. He gave you 2 outstanding starts. He helped you win 2 tight games. You got, now 6-1 is not the same thing as the 5-3 victory in game 1, but he got the job done in the biggest possible way. He is the hero of this series to this point, barring any heroics tonight, like a walk-off by somebody or something. How cool would that be if the Phillies had a walk-off to send them to the World Series? But you got Aaron Nola on the mound tonight, and he's been really, really good this postseason, outstanding. And after the regular season he had, I'll continue to say it, after the regular season that Aaron Nola had, to go and have this type of bounce-back performance, 3-0 this postseason, .96 ERA, .75 whip in 18 2/3 innings pitched against Merrill Kelly, who's 1-1 with a 3 ERA and a 9.2 whip in 12 innings pitched. You saw what happened with Merrill Kelly. He was pretty good against the Phillies in his last start, but he gave up 3 home runs. Aaron Nola has kept the ball in the yard. He's battled. He's had really just good mechanical approach. He said he's figured something out in his mechanics that has seemed to work for him, and he's facing a lineup that he should be able to get after. Here's the lineup that Aaron Nola will be facing tonight. Corbin Carroll leading off. Ketel Marte batting second, playing second. Moreno catching, batting third. Walker, first base, batting cleanup. Tommy Pham batting fifth, DHing. Lourdes Gurriel, left field, batting sixth. Alek Thomas batting seventh, playing center. They're playing Thomas after 2 big home runs in 2 games. Evan Longoria is getting the start again at third. Unbelievable. Batting eighth. And Geraldo Perdomo is going to play shortstop and bat ninth. Here are these guys' career numbers against Aaron Nola. Carroll, 111. Marte, 333. He's 3 for 9. Not bad. Moreno, 3 for 5. Small sample size, batting 600. Listen to the bottom of this lineup against Aaron Nola. Christian Walker's 2 for 10. Tommy Pham's 1 for 12. Gurriel, 2 for 8. Alek Thomas, 1 for 4. Longoria, 3 for 10, which is 300, but you'll take that, especially considering he also has 3 Ks and no homers or RBIs. And Perdomo, 1 for 5, 200. You can handle this lineup. Absolutely. And it's just not that good of an offensive lineup. Now, the Phillies lineup is not out yet. With Merrill Kelly on the mound, another righty. You've seen righties when you actually have starters, the bullpen game notwithstanding. You've seen righties all series long, heavily. Do you go with the same lineup? Do you move Alec Bohm around? Do you keep it all the same? Because in games 4 and 5, you had the same exact lineup, even though I talked about moving Alec Bohm out of the cleanup spot. Rob Thompson stuck with it. Cost him in game 4, helped him in game 5. And I don't know that it necessarily cost him in game 4 because the offense looked pretty good, actually. So maybe I was wrong to say move Alec Bohm, whatever. Rob Thompson is going to probably have the same exact lineup tonight in a clinching series game. The Phillies are minus 190 favorites on the money line. That's huge. And their 59.4% chance to win, according to ESPN Analytics, is also pretty sizable. I just look at it and I say, Nola on the mound. How beautiful of a story would it be? That building. And if you win tonight, you head into the World Series. Not only do you clinch the World Series, again, 5:07 p.m. first pitch. You can listen to every pitch of Phillies Diamondbacks on the SiriusXM app. just go to the SXM app and search Phillies, and you'll be able to hear the hometown radio broadcast of that call. But could you imagine how perfect it would be? Aaron Nola on the mound at home, and you could head into the World Series undefeated at Citizens Bank Park. And the best part, not to look too far ahead, right, because you have to take care of your business, but I'm just going to take a little peek here. If Houston ends up winning the ALCS, which they have a chance to do, you have home field advantage for the World Series. And that means that if you are truly unbeatable at home, which we find out tonight, well, you could be looking at home field advantage, unbeatable at home. You'd have more games. You'd have 4 games at home and 3 on the road. All you'd have to do is win at Citizens Bank Park the rest of the way, and you wouldn't even have to take a game. It's setting up very well. It really is for the Philadelphia Phillies. You have to go out there and take it tonight and make sure you don't go 7 and cut down, because then you'll be losing a game or losing a day on whoever wins the ALCS. So you want to take care of business tonight. And it's on Aaron Nola and this offense to go out and do it. And it's on the fan base to go out there and be great. I firmly believe they can do that. And there's might be some people, one more thing before I let you guys go. They're like, where's the victory shirt? So all year, the victory shirt has been worn the day following wins. So if they win on Sunday, I wear it Monday, aka today. They won on Saturday. So I wore it Sunday when I went in for Eagles postgame. I had that on for Sunday. But I don't wear it today, so don't freak out. I don't want to mess up the mojo of the victory shirt, because if I had worn it today, it would technically not be the day I was supposed to wear it. They didn't play or win yesterday. So if you're seeing me, I'm wearing a pink sweatshirt today on the YouTube, if you're watching the video or if you're listening to the podcast. Pink sweatshirt, no victory shirt, because wore it yesterday. Hopefully I'll have it on tomorrow. And hopefully I'll have it on tonight, and we'll be celebrating on Broad Street together. But you're 1 win away from the World Series. And then after that, you're 4 wins away from immortality. Got to take the step first of getting there. And the Phillies have a great look tonight with Aaron Nola on the mound. And hopefully, after an off day, a bullpen that's much more rested. So everyone should be available, should be the same lineup. Aaron Nola should be good. You go out there, you take care of business. The crowd rattles the Diamondbacks knowing that they're on the verge of their season ending, and you bury this team and you move on to the World Series. That's the game plan. Hopefully we're talking about it going right on tomorrow's episode of Locked On Phillies. Folks, the next time I talk to you, the Philadelphia Phillies could be National League champions for the 2nd straight year in a row. What a world. I so hope they go out and handle things. That's all for today's episode of Locked On Phillies. Thank you so much for checking us out. Please make sure you're rating, reviewing, subscribing to the YouTube, all that great stuff. I appreciate it. And I will talk to you next time on the next episode of Locked On Phillies.